Yuji Naka, one of the most formative people in gaming, responsible for Sonic the Hedgehog, Choo Choo Rocket, Samba de Amigo, Nights into Dreams, Phantasy Star, and many, many more. And he's a literal criminal. Yep, he spent multiple years in jail for inside trading at Square Enix, where he accumulated hundreds of millions of yen. He also doesn't seem to be the best person to work with, and we got a very clear glimpse of that when he publicly just blacked out Naoto Oshima in the Nights into Dreams anniversary picture. Who is this unlockable character? So things got very, very messy, and this culminated in Balan Wonderworld. But we're not talking about Balan today. Instead, we're talking about his time at Probe. After leaving Sega, Naka formed Probe, and they made some really good stuff. Let's Tap. This is an awesome game. It doesn't look like it, but it is legitimately good, trust me. Ivy the Kiwi? Ivy the Kiwi? Ivy the Kiwi? I don't know how you meant to say this one. Ivy the Kiwi? We Play Motion. That was alright. And then, Rodea the Sky Soldier. But many people hear the word Rodea and they shudder. They go, ugh, isn't that a bad game? And in some ways, yes, in some ways it is an awful game. But in other ways, it is a tremendous game. And what does that even mean? Well, Rodea released in 3 different forms. There's the Wii version, the 3DS version, and the Wii U version. But the Wii version shouldn't really exist. This thing was cancelled. Here's the timeline, okay? Rodea the Sky Soldier released in 2015, but the Wii version was finished in 2011. It was meant to release, but for whatever reason, it just didn't. The publisher instead said, we're going to make a 3DS version as well. Because the Wii's on its way out, 3DS is on its way in, it just makes sense. But instead of porting the Wii game over, they just remade everything. The level design's quite similar, but the core game mechanics are completely different. The visuals are completely different. But when the 3DS version was finished, they said, hey, let's port it to Wii U as well. So they then ported the 3DS version to the Wii U, and when it released on Wii U, as a bonus, they put the cancelled Wii version in the box as well. And when it released, our favourite criminal said, Rodea the Sky Soldier will be released today in North America. Please play the Wii version. Full stop. So just how different are these games? Well, let's look at them a moment. Which one of these do you think is the more advanced version? Well, this is Wii. This is Wii U. It's atrocious. But the Wii U version makes up for looking bad by also running bad. It caps out at 30 FPS, but it basically never hits it, and is usually more at like 20 to 25 FPS. Whereas the Wii version can actually hit 60. It doesn't maintain it all the time, but it's way smoother than the Wii U version, while looking exponentially better in every single way. It's more vibrant and colorful, the actual art is nicer, and you can see what you're doing. Whenever you attack things in the Wii U version, your entire screen is just taken up by visual effects and this big old Rodea hurling towards the screen. Whereas in the Wii version, you get so much more real estate and field of view, you can move the camera around much easier. I don't know quite how things got this bad on Wii U. Obviously they're porting from 3DS, but how did they get so bad on 3DS? But what is Rodea the Sky Soldier? Well, I'm going to make a comparison that everybody is going to understand, okay? It's actually quite similar to Gravity Rush. You get it now? We all know the mechanics of Gravity Rush. You point in the direction you want to fling yourself, you fling yourself. The only difference to Rodea is think of it more like a grappling hook. You point at things that are relatively within your range, and you just sort of fling yourself to them. You're flying with style, as my buddy Woody would say. You can stay on the ground and walk around like a little froob, but you're not going to get anywhere fast doing that. The entire time, every single level, I am in the air juggling from one thing to the next, hurling into an enemy, attaching to a pillar, flinging myself around. Touching the ground is like a penalty. There's even a combo meter to keep yourself in the air and keep going from enemy to enemy. It's a game played entirely with a single Wii remote as well, so it's kind of clunky to walk around as you use the D-pad to do that. But it's not the point, you're not really meant to land. They could have attached the nunchuck to make it easier to walk around, but walking is boring. Flinging is fun. I won't say that the Wii version is a perfect game. Like moving the camera around can feel a bit clunky sometimes, that might have been a good use for the nunchuck. But just the moment-to-moment joy here is really great. They've made some fantastic levels with great design, but there's also ways to exploit them. Like you can keep just hurling yourself into the side of a wall jumping up, scaling, to what feels like an unreachable area, but there's usually something there for you, and there's lots of great ways to keep exploiting that design. Rodea can often feel like a roller coaster, but there's all these awesome set pieces, and there's even like lightspeed dash chains where you can hurl yourself towards these jewels that just speed you along. In fact, flinging yourself often feels like a more manual homing attack, where you've got to aim at what you're looking at, and then you just like swing down and hurl towards what you're trying to get to. There's large DNA of Knights, large DNA of Sonic. It's a great merge of things that work, but the end result is unlike anything else. You can kind of compare it to Gravity Rush, but the more linear level design just gives you a totally different take on these kind of mechanics. It changes things up a bunch as well. Sometimes levels are just about getting to the goal, and you can do that by exploring and finding as many gems as you can to get a higher grade, or you can just try going as fast as you can. Other times the levels are like enemy gauntlets, with boss battles that are very similar to those in Sonic Adventure 2, but also Shadow of the Colossus. Like, this is literally a Shadow of the Colossus boss here. And so is this one. What the hell? How did they get away with that? There's also level design specific power-ups that are sometimes given to you, like Rodea can get a flippin' gun. Yuji Naka wasn't done with his Shadow the Hedgehog antics. Look at that little smirk he does as well. This is often given to you during the enemy gauntlets, but there's also some enemies that can only be defeated with a gun, like these big spike ones or these spike bombs that explode. You don't get this one as much, but there's also one that lets you target a bunch of enemies in a row and then just fling yourself through all of them. That one's a really cool one. And another one you get a bunch are these shoes that trigger the speed panels that just launch you forward. But a cool secondary use of this power-up is when you're flinging yourself and boosting and you hit a wall, you just sort of ricochet off it and keep going. And there's some really awesome ways you can keep exploiting the physics of the game using this. So while this power-up may not be used quite so much as like the gun is used, it's still awesome when you can really get the most out of it. I had a brilliant time playing through Rodea on the Wii. The art style is really vibrant and warm. It uses the best part of the Wii for everything, being the pointer, and the level design is just so much fun to play in different ways, whether you're high score chasing or just trying to finish the game. There's even a multiplayer mode, just like Sonic Adventure 2, where you can do races against up to 4 different players. They packed this game with a lot of stuff. Although there are still some oddities, like the game just freezes at the end. This might just be in the European version, but apparently it happens to a lot of people. Like, you finish it and it just cuts to black. Your system can't turn off until you force it down. Also, speaking of the credits, some of the strangest credits ever, they credit everybody in like marketing and business, and then when it comes to the prop staff, it's just like Yuji Naka made this, Tomohito Aita made this, Yusaku Yamanaka made this, and then a bunch of other people made this, but we're not going to name them. It's not a perfect game, but it's a quirky and memorable game. It's something I still think about today. Apart from the final boss can get lost. But there's 4 phases, no checkpoints, and the last 2 phases just have a lot of luck to what moves he's going to do. Not fun on that one, but everything else, I think, is just a whole lot of fun and joy. And then there's the Wii U and 3DS version. So in this one of the biggest differences is there is now a flight meter. So you can't just fly forever. In fact, it's much like Gravity Rush. Apart from in Gravity Rush, this was an open world game. You could stop on buildings. The on-ground controls are part of the game as well. In Rodea, you're meant to be in the air all the time through these linear platforming sections, and having to land is just boring. You're meant to be chaining enemies together. You're meant to be trying to stay in the air for as long as you can, just continuously grappling onto new things. But in this one, you've got to just land every now and then. And that's with the aiming just being exponentially worse. There's no gyro controls in the Wii U version. Wii remotes aren't supported in the Wii U version. You're doing everything with sticks. You're aiming at specific things, aiming at enemies with these really rigid stick controls. So things feel slower, they're strangely more limited as well, and you're going to be on ground a heck of a lot more. So I guess to add to this, they did change things up a little bit mechanically. There's now a jump button in the Wii U version of Rodea. You can just like fling yourself into the air. And this feels kinda against the whole point of the game, where you're not really meant to be platforming, you're meant to be flinging yourself. But there's points in the Wii version where there'd be a little wall that was a bit inconvenient. So like you fling yourself into the wall and wall jump off it. Like, it sounds strange, but it's part of what the game is. You're meant to be flinging yourself. In this one, you just jump a lot of the time. And then when you're flinging and then boosting, that boost is making your flight meter go down even faster. So you feel like you're being punished for trying to play the game, trying to exploit the mechanics in the same way that you could in the Wii version. Everything is just duller and less fun. And obviously, yes, the visuals are so much more drab. That lovely blue sky of the Wii version is now just one color, one weird void color. Everything is far more grey. They even made the CG cutscenes more grey for some reason. They didn't have to do that. They put a specific filter to make these grayer to match the more grey tone of the rest of the game. There is some bonus stuff in the Wii U version though. The level select screen is now a world map, and I like that. That's pretty cool. Rather than just choosing like World 1, World 2, you now go around and contextually feel like you're going through the world. That's neat. But there's also now a upgrade system for Rodea, which I do not like. So when you're playing the game, you'll get these little upgrade materials which you can use to boost his flight ability, boost his dexterity, boost all these things. I just liked it when Rodea was strong all the time. It feels like you're kind of weak and earning your way to where you are in the Wii version, and even then you don't quite reach the Wii version. But another strange difference as well is in the Wii version, power-ups are almost like Mario, where you get hit and you lose that ability. It encouraged a bit more careful play and planning because you want to stay in your most powerful state. Whereas the Wii U version just makes it all like permanent. You can change through your abilities whenever you want to, and it makes it far less obvious when you're meant to use them. Obviously, in the Wii version, if you want to be using the speed shoes, you know you're going to use the speed shoes because you just get the speed shoes. Whereas in the Wii U, you've got to toggle and remember to use them and figure out when you're meant to use them. It feels like at every turn, they made a worse decision. The game looks worse, it runs worse, the mechanics are far less interesting and fun. It's like, how can we make this as tedious as possible compared to what it used to be? And some of that may spawn from the 3DS's technical limitations, like maybe the flight meter's there because the 3DS couldn't handle just always flinging through the air. Maybe that's why? But what about all these other strange choices? The multiplayer's not even there. Multiplayer is exclusive to the Wii version. So yes, as criminal Yuji Naka says, play the Wii version. What a strange little story this one is. And I think they very much knew what they had on their hands here. Because when you open the box, the Wii U manual is like this. It's just like a little page. Whereas the Wii gets a proper manual. And you can then take the box art inners out, flip it around, and all of a sudden you've got a Wii game in there. So you can just pretend that this has always been the Wii Rodea. It just launched 4 years later than it was meant to. You can ignore that Wii U disc. It is absolutely not worth playing. Whereas the Wii version, what a terrific little gem. And because this was a 2015 Wii release, this is one of the final games for the console. We did get a few others after this, like a few Just Dance games, but in terms of just major Wii releases, I think this is really the last one. It's not just a curiosity, it's not just worth checking out for historical purposes, this is legitimately a really good game. And if you love those sort of PlayStation 2 era of colorful platformers, I think this is very much up your alley. And it definitely deserves to be remembered among the other Yuji Naka games. So whenever you think of this man, yes, you might think of the hundreds of millions of yen he took in inside trading. Yes, you might think of Sonic the Hedgehog, but maybe you can spare a little bit of that mindset for Rodea the Sky Soldier, the funky little game that came with a bad game. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let us know what you think about Rodea down below. Did you play the Wii version, or did you just play the Wii U version and give up there? I'd love to hear from those who had that reality. Anyway, we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye!